Hey, Cavs fans. Welcome to the Cavs Pick and Roll podcast, the podcast for diehard fans by diehard fans. I'm Alex, and I'm here with Corey. Well, Corey, how you feeling?
Well, it's funny because it's been about 24 hours as we start to record this episode. It's been about 24 hours before the Cavs season came to a disappointing ending, which we're going to get into here, obviously. But the first question I have for you, Alex, if you had to sum up this playoff run in one single word, what would you? Profanities are allowed. Come on, drop something.
Yeah, I don't think I can put it into one word, man. There's a lot of emotions here. Disappointment, shocked, uh, yeah,
Choke,
choke. Yeah, I mean, mental
embarrassment.
mistakes. If you're saying choking is mental mistakes, there was a hell of a lot of those.
Yeah.
I mean, game two was mental mistake after mental mistake in that final 47 seconds.
What's crazy is, as you know, we haven't had an episode since the Heat series, just the logistics of schedules and the games played. And then we got to a point where it's like, we might as well just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean the funny thing about that
They just
is,
played.
yeah, I wasn't around. I was actually in Texas for my cousin's wedding, which was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Texas wedding, everybody's wearing Western attire. I had to buy cowboy boots and a cowboy hat and a buckle, and
Alex,
I was the only city slicker there. Everybody else was an actual cowboy.
Alex randomly sends me a message at our work, like an IM. He's like, random question, but by any chance do you know where I can buy some cowboy boots? And I'm working. I'm like, dude, what are you coming at me this stuff for? Get out of here. I said, I have no idea. I went to Amazon, sent him a link, but yeah,
Yeah.
Alex was out of town. The first two games, I think.
So yeah, that's what I was getting to. I missed the first two games, right?
Yeah.
But I was like so excited for these games that I still like. Typically, I'll stay completely away from it and I'll watch the game later, so I don't know anything about it. But I
Right.
was checking the scores constantly, and I knew that we lost. And even though I knew that we lost, I went back and watched the games later that night just to see how the hell this happened.
Right.
And I
Right.
figured if they were going to steal a game, it was going to be the first game. Like I figured they might catch us sleeping, overconfident. So I figured if they're going to steal a game, it was going to be the that game one. So game two was really the backbreaker for me.
Yeah.
Like,
That
okay,
was
this
that
series is not going the way we
game
want it to go.
game two was the heartbreaker, and reality set in fairly quickly after that, right? Um, and I'm watching this series, and it felt like watching the Knicks series from a couple years ago all over again. Meaning you're playing against a more physical team, a more mentally strong, in your head team, a team that came down from multiple large deficits in multiple game both game 1 and 2. You know, the Cavs are up 18, 20 points, and I get it. In the NBA today, no lead is safe, but still you allowed them to build up that confidence very early in this series, and it felt a lot like the Knicks series where they were just in your head and the Cavs didn't know how to react. And then you had the injuries, you know, banged up injuries. Garland, Mobley, and Hunter miss a game. Garland missed a couple games. So after I'm thinking like, well, this feels like the Knicks series. It also started to feel a little bit like last year against the Celtics, where we're banged up. And when you have that combination together, it was a recipe for disaster, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, this was the third season in a row where we got to the playoffs and just got hit by the injury bug to our starters. And I know that's what we were saying all season. This is exactly what we said all season, that I think the Cavs are the team this season. They could go deep. They could win it all if they can stay healthy. They can't stay healthy.
Yeah, but it also, I feel like that's also, was that a factor? Yes. Is that the reason? I wouldn't say that
No, I would
because
also say Indy was a tough matchup for us.
yeah,
Like,
Indy was a tough
yeah,
matchup, but it wasn't. And I was saying this to you. earlier today, Alex, when we were chatting a while at work. It wasn't a scenario where, yeah, okay, Garland misses 2 games. I get it. But he came back and he played in the series, right? It's not a Jason Tatum type injury, a Steph Curry type injury, a Damian Lillard type injury where, one of your star players was basically done for the series. You know what I mean? And this team has a lot of weapons on it, right? That's supposed to be one of the things we were able to tip our hat on, at least all regular season, was the depth of this team. So Darius Garland going down obviously hurts you, but there's still enough firepower on this team to where the Cavs should have been able to overcome. And there's just a lot of other things that unfortunately align for a perfect storm, right? Not only was it the injuries, you had shooting woes from this team in this whole series, which is very uncharacteristic from the 3-point line. You had Ty Jerome probably play the worst basketball so far as a Cleveland Cavalier during this series. Jared Allen wasn't able to get going like he's capable of. In game 2, had 5 or 6 blunders in it alone, that it just kind of all came together, and Indiana was able to seize that opportunity and take advantage of that perfect storm.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I think Indy was just a tough matchup for us. I know we were like the best offense in the NBA, but Indy was the fastest offense
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the NBA, and they pushed the ball constantly. They played faster than we did. They play a similar style of basketball that we do. They shoot a lot of threes. They move the ball around. They're deep. So it's a very similar team to us, but they play faster. So we struggled with that. And then you brought up Ty Jerome, and I kind of want to touch on that quite a bit because
Sure.
Ty Jerome was just firepower for us all season. He would come in with that second team, and he was just a torch. He would light teams up. I was calling them Ty Sanity games because he would just come in and just cook the other team with that second unit. And then in this series, they really scouted him, man, because whenever Ty Jerome checked in and he would play point and he would be bringing the ball up the court, they were jamming him constantly. They were full court pressing him. He was lucky to get the ball, across midway within the 8 seconds.
Yeah.
It was a struggle. They really took Ty Jerome out of the game, and he just couldn't get to his spots. He was still taking a lot of shots, just not making shots.
Right.
Even his floater, like he was really good with that Euro step going down the lane all season. It just wasn't dropping for him.
No, it wasn't, and that's a huge blow, right? Because again, like you said, he's been your firepower, your secret weapon, and I kept waiting for him this series to have that 25-point game that is the difference maker, and it never happened. And then in the very last game, Atkinson, doesn't play him until 2.5 quarters into the game, and he comes into that game and gives you a little bit of firepower at home, puts up 10 points within a couple minutes. But by that point, it was too late. And I do wish that he would have played him that game, that whole game, because I felt like if there's one game where he can get going again, it's most likely probably going to be at home, right? So I
Yeah.
thought it was a bad decision to bench him at that point in the series. You didn't make any other adjustments. You got to have a point guard out there running the offense in the second unit when Garland's down. We've talked many times, or I've expressed many times, I hate the point guard Mitchell offense. It just doesn't work. It doesn't flow. So I wish he would have played him. But there's just so many things that now that it's starting to sink in and you reflect in hindsight. There's so many things that were wrong in this series, and it's like, man, if only we could have like not done 3 of them. If they just would have grabbed one of those rebounds in game 2, they secure that game,
Or
right?
inbound it,
Or inbound
for
it, right?
God's sakes.
If Ty Jerome only had one good game, that could have been a difference maker, right? If the Cavs weren't shooting so horribly from 3-point this whole series, the series would probably be different. it's hard to go back and look, and just it's amazing how many things ended up going in Indy's favor as a result.
Yeah,
And
Ty Jerome went 1 for 8 in game 3, and then was it 1 for 14
1
in
for
game
14, game
2?
2.
Yeah,
That's a lot of shots, right? And to not be hitting, that kills you.
yeah,
And then you also had in this last game, what was it, a 7-minute stretch with no field goals from the number 2 highest ranked offense in NBA history. Like that's just unheard of, right? So just so many things just man, it's crazy to think about it, right? And a lot of people, don't realize that Indiana has been a solid team for years. They've been a well under the radar ran organization, um, with a lot of consecutive playoff appearances. Yes, they haven't gone all the way, but I kind of forgot until that last game, Alex, that last year they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals as well. And you quickly reminded me that they got smoked by Boston, which is
yep.
true, but like they've had that taste of playoffs for it's not new to them. You know what I mean? And that team, has been very well constructed. So we just ran up against a tough matchup, and unfortunately the Cavs, come out on the wrong end of it.
And I saw a stat that was like number of playoff games that Cavs players have been in versus number of games that Pacers players have been in, and it was, not even close. The Pacers have played many more.
Yeah.
The players on that team have played many more playoff games than we have.
I thought I saw a stat during the game at this is their fifth consecutive playoff appearance, right? And then, not it's not that long ago that like the Paul George era and stuff like that ended in the late teens. I think 2017, 2016 around there. They didn't get very far cuz LeBron and the Cavs and the Miami Heat and all that were around, but they were a playoff team at that point as well. Like they've had a lot of success as far as being a competent team or whatever. And even though the Cavs were banged up, so was Indiana. I mean, Miles Turner was out there limping around the court those last 2 games, and he was still making an impact. And not to take away from like Donovan Mitchell, who you could tell he was giving you his all that he had in this series. He just didn't have it from 3-point line, and you could tell he was struggling a little bit. But what I also hated about this series is it forced us to play the brand of basketball that really doesn't work, which is hero ball, right? Where one player you're basically relying on Mitchell dumping almost 50 points in a game to try to secure a win. Like we witnessed that with LeBron in the early years, and it didn't pan out to a lot of great stuff, right? And it doesn't work in this NBA either.
I don't know that Mitchell was resorting to hero ball until he felt like he had to. When Ty Jerome's missing everything, Darius Garland isn't even playing, and he's carrying the load. Um,
Well, that's where it's disappointing because you still have other players that and anybody can go off. And Max Strus can go off, Sam Merrill can go off, Mobley can go off, DeAndre Hunter can go off, Ty Jerome can go off. These all these guys can go off. The problem is nobody really did.
Nobody was. Yeah, it's just like it's so weird. It's so uncharacteristic of the team. Just
Like
for like every player to be in a shooting slump at the same time.
like if you had to run this as a simulation 100 times, 1,000 times, right? This exact same series, sure, there'd be different outcomes as far as who would win, but I guarantee you the possibility of having everything fall in a line the way this series did, it's like nil. Like it's
Yeah.
like 1 out of 1,000 that it would they would lose in this fashion. Like
Hey,
that's
I still
how
say Cavs in
crazy
9.
this is. Cavs at 9.
Cavs in 9.
Cavs at 9.
Let's run it back.
And what hurts the most, Alex, is like it erases everything that happened this season.
It
Like
does. It was such a great
it
season. This was
was,
like the
man.
most fun season I've watched
Yeah.
in years.
We talked about how we've had nothing to complain about this year. which has also made it a little bit boring as well, right? As far as coming up with things to talk about on the podcast. But you think about all the historical achievements, the second most wins in franchise history. Your coach wins coach of the year, the first defensive player of the year in franchise history. You send 3 players to the All-Star game and you maintain the number 1 seed for the entire season and you get bounced in the second round. Like, man, that's just gut wrenching. And on top of it, you didn't even advance as far as you did last year. So it really feels like a step back, and it erases all the achievements this year because nobody's going to remember that or care about that. Rightfully so. So it's sad the way it ended, Alex. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, just nobody could. And, the shooting was bad. I wish we would have worked a little more through Allen and Mobley because our big guys in the paint, they were still scoring pretty efficiently. They're still pulling down rebounds. I don't know why we kept getting away from that and trying to force the three ball.
Yeah, it just felt like the Cavs weren't able to settle in really outside of game 3 into their brand of basketball, which is not only utilize your bigs, but utilize movement, right? Move the ball, run off screens and just set up the offense a little bit better. And part of like what you just said a little bit ago about Ty Jerome struggling to bring up the ball, within 8 seconds, it wasn't just for Ty. It also happened for Darius. It happened for Mitchell. It happened for whoever brought the ball. So by the time you're able to set your offense, you're 10 seconds or so into the shot clock, and it doesn't leave as much time, right? To run a set play. And there was a lot of one and dones, right? Like shoot it, and if we weren't getting the rebound, the Pacers are coming the other way, and it just sucked the life out of the Cavs. They couldn't adapt.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I would have liked to have seen is last year Jared Allen doing the getting the 3-second lane violations. I would have liked to seen him get one of those and,
Yeah,
and celebrate it.
it was nice to see Jared Allen at least play this year, though, Alex, because last year he didn't
It
play, right?
was
So
Jared Allen, he still struggled in this
he
series,
did,
and
he did.
I don't know what his deal was, but man, did he have butterfingers. I don't know how many times he had a rebound, bobbled it, lost it,
Yep,
caught
yep.
an inbound, caught a pass and dropped it, or had the ball stripped from his hands. He was just Mr. Butterfingers this whole series, and
And it's
that
funny
drives me
because
crazy.
he didn't always receive the best passes, right? But I don't feel like that was the case in the regular season, right? I noticed the same thing. I'm glad you brought that up because I probably would have forgot to actually. But yeah, there was, that was another big thing is the Cavs turnovers in general, but how many of them were results of that, where someone's trying to dump the ball down to like Allen or somebody cutting and just the player can't hold on to it. Just again, that's something that was a common issue throughout the season. And maybe it was the pressure that they felt or Indiana, their defense and playoff basketball, it's different. It's a more high intensity. And the Cavs, unfortunately, after 3 years now with this core together, have still not figured that out. They haven't learned the lesson from the New York series or the Boston series. And again, it's going to be a long summer as a result.
Yeah, turnovers. I mean, that's one of the things when I first pulled up I waited a day. I didn't look at the box score
Sure.
until this morning because I don't want to I don't want to dwell on it. But that was one of the first things I looked at was the turnovers. Right? Yeah, I mean, Darius Garland shot 4 of 16. He had 11 points, 5 turnovers. He had
Yeah.
more turnovers than anyone else on the Cavs and anyone on the Pacers.
Yep.
And that's your starting all-star point guard. Five
Right.
turnovers, 3 assists.
Right. And I thought in game 4, he looked a little off. This last game, as far as his dribbling and his movement looked better, I thought. So, but he struggled to finish. There were several times he would beat his defender and get to the rim, and he wasn't finishing the layups. And then yes, he had the turnovers, and just, Garland struggled to get going this entire series as well, which, you need Garland to be a major factor in an NBA playoff series, right? That's what you're paying him for. That's what he's an all-star for, and so on and so forth. And if it's funny, Alex, didn't feel like it, but if you're looking at the box score, the Pacers actually had more team turnovers than the Cavs, 13-11. But look at that assist difference, 26-10. The Cavs only had 10 assists in this last game, 8 blocks to 3 blocks. Um, it just there's things that are very heavily skewed towards the Pacers, and it's just too much. Cavs only made 9 3-pointers in this game, shot 25%. Pacers shot 42%. I thought the Pacers shot pretty well from 3-point this whole series, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that free throws. I mean, Donovan Mitchell missed how many free throws in this game? Like
Yeah,
he got fouled shooting that three, and then missed all three free
right,
throws.
right. Yeah. So again, just there's so many things that were
Makes me so
very.
sad.
It does because for the most part, this team wasn't perfect by any means. They have their areas of gaps, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of these things that we're talking about were uncharacteristic, right? Like usually this team shoots the ball well. Usually this team has good, well balanced scoring. Usually this team is more efficient. Usually you can count on guys like our rotational players to give you something. Max Drews plays 26 minutes last night, doesn't score a single point, right? Missed every shot he took. That's you know it's not going to happen all the time, right? That's uncharacteristic for him to do that, right? Ty Jerome, same thing. Just so many things that it's just unbelievable almost.
Yeah, yeah, just so many things went wrong. Um, I mean, this team went on 16, 17, 18, game winning streaks.
Yeah,
We're having
yeah,
cavalanches left and right. This series, not a single cavalanche. Like, it's
and
just
it's
bizarre.
the lesson learned, and it's kind of sucks to say this because you just said it. Like this was a very fun season. It was an enjoyable season. I think their longest losing streak was what the 4 games, 5 games out on the West Coast. That happened one time. Long winning streaks. 3 different stretches of 12 or more straight wins. So many things to be happy about, but it's kind of like the regular season doesn't mean a damn thing. And I think I'll be more cautious moving forward as a result. Like that's great. They're winning games. Until we get to April, I don't know what it means, right? And at the same time, these teams that finished a little bit lower in the seeding, the Knicks, the Pacers, even Detroit, played very well in their first playoff run with that team. It's almost like, yeah, the 1 seed was great to have, but it didn't really benefit us because we still don't have our identity or know how to win in the playoffs. And until we learn how to do that, nothing else really matters. I don't care if they're the 8th seed, right? If they can learn how to win and play and fight and not give up, that's how they're going to take that next step, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I understand that point of view. I guess I have a really weird, different point of view about that. Like, I would rather have a whole lot of wins during the regular season because I watch every single Cavs game. I watch every game, right? And
Sure.
I'd much rather see winning games than losing games. So if I'm watching them win 65 games one year and 40 games the next year, but they win an extra 4 playoff games, like, I mean, unless they're winning it all and getting a ring, yeah, but otherwise, I'm spending way more hours of my life watching losing basketball than watching winning basketball, even if it might be regular season.
Yeah. No,
Does
I
that make
get that.
sense?
Yeah,
Or
it
is
makes
that
sense.
weird?
I get it.
All
Obviously,
right.
that's why I said it feels weird saying that before I said all that, because obviously you want to see your team win, right? But where the lesson that I'm learning at least is didn't mean a damn thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah,
The
right,
64
right.
win, it didn't mean a damn. 3 players in the All-Star didn't mean a damn thing because look at what happened. Look who showed up and ultimately didn't show up when we needed them most, right? And that's what's kind of probably ingrained into a lot of Cavs fans right now. And as a result, Alex, you already said you made the mistake of looking at the Cavs subreddit. I today
Oh
for the
God,
yeah, just a dumpster fire,
it
right?
is trash.
For the first time in this entire series today, after the day after they got eliminated, was the first time I listened to any kind of sports talk radio, local radio. I just tuned out everything because I didn't want to hear it. And after doing that for one day, I'm just going to tune it out again, right? Because it's just you're frustrated as a Cavs fan to see so much potential be wasted, and it was embarrassing, to be honest with you, of how they went out. And even the announcers in that game 5 were like, this almost feels sad. Like this is
Yeah,
almost like being like at a funeral.
yeah,
It's just, oh man.
it was sad.
Yeah,
It had that feeling to it. Like it was just like depressing. Like you could
it
tell all the
was.
players were depressed.
It was.
Watching that last few minutes, you could tell that Donovan Mitchell was just like in disbelief,
Yeah,
and he was completely gassed. He would get down to the defensive end of the court and he just had his hands on his knees and he's looking down and
yeah.
looking up, and it's like,
And you could
and
tell with
then
the
he would
fan
get the
base.
ball and he'd bring it down on the offense and just immediately jack up a three. Granted,
Right.
he hit like two or three of them there at the end to
At
try
the
to
end. Yeah.
bring us back, but it was too late.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Alex, we've been going for 25 minutes here, kind of beating up on the reality of what happened. We have to accept and move forward now at this point. And I don't want to go too crazy with like, oh, speculation of what's going to happen this off season. I definitely want to hear your opinion. But before we get to that, um, you had mentioned the Donovan Mitchell like press conference,
Yeah.
and obviously, he spoke, Atkinson spoke, Garland, all these people spoke. But with Mitchell specifically, was there anything that stuck with you or stuck out to you that he said or kind of how he reacted after, that game was done?
Yeah, his post game was really it was really sad. He did not have very many words. He was just as incredibly disappointed as we all are. But yeah, I mean, he was like, he did specifically say, I let down the fans. I feel like I let down the city, and this is a great city. I love this city, and I'm just, he just talked about how devastated he was at the way things happened, and that the city deserved better and the fans deserved better. And
And he
yeah,
said,
I mean, it was really heartfelt, and
yeah.
like,
Yeah, and he also said, I know that you, meaning the media, are gonna, you're gonna write us off. You're gonna write a bunch of, stuff, shit, basically. But he's like, we'll be back. We'll be back next year. And where my mind goes, that's like the best thing that could have happened after this, because think about it. For so long, we were held hostage with LeBron, which is why a lot of why your fan base is still split to him on this day about that. Because if this was LeBron, you get some sort of cryptic, we'll see what happens over the summer. Our guys didn't show up. Throwing guys underneath the bus and stuff like that. To where Mitchell, it felt genuine and it felt sincere. He took ownership. He talked about how he and the team is going to use this as fuel. He talked about how he let the city down. He loves this city. We'll be back next year. And the only security I can take out of all this, and hopefully other Cavs fans will as well, is that you still have a hell of a player that's still on this team and is still committed to this team. It's not Milwaukee Bucks where they don't know what the future is going to be with Giannis. It's not the Warriors where Steph Curry just got injured and is really at the coattail ends of his career, and that roster might only have another year or so, and then they have to completely blow it up. It's not the Boston Celtics who just lost Jason Tatum to a serious injury, and you don't know if he's going to come back and be Klay Thompson or come back and be Jason Tatum, right? Like the Cavs are still in a scenario where they have, a great core together, and they're all locked up salary wise. They're in the same age group. Like that's the only good thing that I could take from this, and to have the leader of your team to say that. And then afterwards, this was a big thing that was circulating on social media, Alex. He actually went back out to the bench after the arena had emptied, and he just sat there and he soaked it in, kind of again in disbelief. But the fact that he went back out there, didn't just pack his bags, jump on a flight down to the Caribbean this morning, like
Mm-hmm.
that says a lot. And I just saw something before we started recording that said like he said he hasn't been to sleep yet. He rewatched the game twice already just to watch it, to study it, to that's all the type of things that you want to see your leader doing. And I think we're so lucky to have a player that's so egoless like that and takes it that seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's got to really haunt Donovan Mitchell. I saw a
Yeah.
funny comment on on Reddit of Donovan Mitchell got traded from Utah to Utah because how many seasons in Utah did he, only get to the second round of the playoffs, and now
Yeah.
he's back in that hell, that Groundhog's Day with the Cavs. So that's kind of funny, but I mean, yeah, you bring up the Cavs in the offseason and what can they do, and I think a big part of that is where they're at with the salary cap, and I mean you've got three players making 120 mil of the salary cap. You got Darius Garland, he's going to be making 40 million. Donovan Mitchell's at 46 million. Uh, Mobley, since he got Defensive Player of the Years, he's going to be making 40 million.
Hunter's
You got
making
Hunter's
20,
making
20 plus.
20, 23 million.
Allen makes 20
Allen's making
plus.
20.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not a lot of money to go around, and this was a very expensive roster to put together, a very good roster, right? And that's also why this is such a disappointment with the way it ended. And if there's three things there's three options the Cavs have. They continue to believe in this team, and they run it back, which within 24 hours of being eliminated will be the most unpopular decision from the Cavs fan base, right? To hold tight, kind of like they did last summer, not dabble very much. The other thing they could do is do something drastic and move a piece or two from the core four. And we all know who those candidates are going to be. It's the same ones we were talking about last summer. That would be Darius Garland and Jared Allen. Um, Garland makes a lot of money, Alex. Some team would take on a huge commitment salary wise. Um, and Jared Allen to me still outweighs his value, still outweighs what his salary is. I get this is kind of 2 years in a row where he didn't have a great playoff run, but at 20 million a year, even if it's 25 now, I forget what it is, that's still a steal for what Allen gives you.
Yeah, it's really difficult to find a starting big man that has all the tools that Allen does.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah,
Right. So Garland feels potentially like maybe the most obvious and would probably potentially get you back the most return because of the salary, because of his age, because of what he can do on the floor. So it'll be interesting, right? The third option they can do is not touch the core four and see where they can tweak outside of the core four, right? I think guys like Max Struess, Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, right? Players like that, I think are now potentially expendable, right? And you're not going to get anything, huge back for any of those players. None of those players are going to warrant you a huge return. But I don't think the Cavs need a huge addition if they continue with the core four. It's about the pieces that are around the core four, right? That they got to think about. Maybe they want to get bigger in the backcourt. Maybe they need. Unfortunately, I still don't feel like we have a great, starting small forward. Max Struess it would be a great player coming off the bench. I think he's undersized and he's not able to bang with the bigger wings in the league. So there's things like that they can also do. If you had those three options presented to you, Alex, what would you go with today?
I mean that's a tough question just
Yeah.
because of just how strapped the Cavs are with the salary cap. I mean, this season they were like barely sneaking under the salary cap. Next season, because of the salary jumps by several players, namely Mobley jumping from making 10 million this season
Yep.
to 40 million next season. It doesn't just put us over the salary cap. It puts us over the first apron. It puts us over the second apron. So that really limits what we can do. I mean,
It does.
that gets rid of the MLE.
Yep.
That gets rid of you're not able to trade more than one player in a single package in a single trade. So I mean that's brutal.
Yeah,
Um,
it also, decreases your chances of bringing back like a Ty Jerome, which to me is, one of the first things they need to make a decision on, right? Um, is determining whether or not to spend that money on him. Yeah, they're limited in a lot of ways, which makes it challenging. And you'll start to have part of that fan base that says, "See, that's why we shouldn't have given up all those first round picks," and we kind of have no out, right? But that's where again, maybe minor tweaks is all it's going to take. When I look at the Pacers, when I look at the Knicks, when I look around the league, I'm watching these games and it's like the one thing the Cavs don't have is a dog on that roster, right? Just I thought Okuro could be that guy, right? But he's not consistently in the rotation. He's not there yet. Maybe he can get there. But the Cavs just don't, like Obi Toppin, for example. Obi Toppin is not, anything overly great. He didn't work out in New York. He finds a new home in Indiana, and he just plays with a lot of swag, right? And he's able to do things as well. And the Cavs just don't have that.
yeah, Julius Randle's another
Julius
guy
Randle,
that's
he
plays
beat
like
us.
that.
He beat us up in that New York series, right? And we talked about this a couple weeks back. Like, there's nobody that's just going to go out there and just lay somebody out. And you're like, well, Tristan, yeah, okay, but like Tristan isn't going to really play in real
Yeah, he's
games,
not going
and
to contribute.
he's not going to
Yeah.
contribute. So
Same
it's
with
all,
like we had Morris last season, right? And he was a dog player like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Extremely physical, but he was way past his prime.
I,
He was never really going to contribute.
Sure. And even the guy, I can't say his name, the guy that got ejected for punching Hunter on the Pacers,
Oh,
and
Matherin.
Matherin, the two of them went at this whole series, right? And he's a no name, like meaning like outside of Indiana, nobody knows who he is. He's in the NBA, so hey, I give him credit for that. But he just has a role, and his role is to not, I'm not saying I want to Draymond Green on this team,
Yeah.
but I think you need some attitude, some aggression on this team, some fight. It's what the team is missing. You need that kind of heart and soul.
You got to have that guy that'll blow in LeBron's ear or
Yeah.
untie his shoe.
Yeah. That Lance Stevenson.
Yeah,
Wow,
Lance
man.
Stevenson.
Yeah.
You got to have one of those guys on your team, man.
And
And
I'm
we don't
surprised
have that. Yeah, you're right.
we don't have that. And you asked me before we started recording, and this is my way to finally bring it up because you're not going to bring it up again. But you're like, what jersey are you wearing? Because I don't
Yeah.
usually wear, a lot of. I don't have a lot of Cavs jerseys. I'm not Alex over here. My closet isn't filled with Cavs jerseys and Jordans. Um, I wore this jersey because I wanted to make the point I just made about not having that dog, that guy that just gives you that 150% every second.
Is that a Delhi jersey?
It's a Delhi
Oh man.
jersey. And there's
I was
some people
like,
right
because
now.
I was like, oh, you're wearing a Kyrie jersey, aren't you?
No, no,
No,
no, no,
you
no,
said no,
no,
and I was like,
no.
okay, then it must be LeBron.
But Delhi was kind of that guy during that era, man. Right? He just played his tail off.
He was a scrappy dude.
He's
I
a
don't know that
scrappy
you would put
guy.
him in the same category as like Julius Randle or Obi
No,
Toppin.
no,
I mean,
obviously
Delhi was
not.
much smaller and
And Delhi wasn't
not
bullying
as
anybody
not as
around.
physical. Yeah.
But Delhi's effort and his approach to the game just was in like almost inspiring in ways, right? Especially in that 2015 series when both Kyrie and Love went down, and he's chasing Curry around, ends up in the hospital,
Yeah, I mean,
and made an
Delhi would
impact.
he'd slam a pot of coffee before a
Yeah,
game. He had his own coffee branded beans in Cleveland.
yeah.
He was a high wire, high energy dude.
So I don't know where I sit out of those three options as of right now. We were having some fun chatting earlier about just go flip Garland and Allen and bring in Giannis or something crazy like that, right?
Yeah.
Probably not realistic. But if I had one thing that I'd like to see them make an addition to with this team this offseason, it's give me some attitude, give me some aggression, give me some heart and soul, because this team needs it. They need that mental toughness. They need that physical toughness because it's obvious. It's been multiple years now that that's one of the biggest things that this team is lacking. The talent is there, but that toughness is not.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really know who would be available or who that we could even get, but
Yeah,
I mean, we'll have plenty of time to dig into that in the off season.
exactly. And it's not always doesn't always have to be a household name. Like I said, sometimes about just fit, the right fit and all that kind of stuff.
I mean,
So
we had Hartenstein there for a while.
yeah, he'd be a perfect guy right now to have on this roster. We wouldn't have been able to afford him, right? But that's a
I've
perfect.
heard people floating Steven Adams' name. I don't
I
know.
like I like Adams
I don't know if we'd be
actually.
able to get him. He's kind of getting past his prime.
He's getting up there, but
Yeah,
I watched a couple of those games that Houston series, and he's still out there making an impact. He's such a big body,
yeah.
and
Aquaman, he's a beast.
yeah, he can. Listen, I love Tristan for what he did in his career as a Cleveland Cavalier, but give me Steven Adams all day over Tristan because Adams is still going to play. Tristan sat the bench, right, and just kind of yapped on the bench and played garbage time. Like we can't waste a roster spot on that, you know, moving forward. So I like Adams a lot. I think he'd be a good get. But yeah, like you said, it's unfortunately going to be a longer summer than what we wanted now. And as things start to happen, after the finals happen and the draft happens, and then free agency opens up and trade season, like we'll get a better picture of what's even realistic and kind of what's even available out there. Um, you mentioned it to me, Gilbert, Dan Gilbert's social media post after the game. What did he say, Alex?
Yeah, he did a pretty good social media post after the game about, thank you fans. We had a great season. Unfortunately, it ended sooner than expected. But I can't remember the exact line, but it said something about, like, don't worry, we'll we'll fix what needs fixed and come back stronger next season or something like that. And it's like, I don't know if I would have used the word fix. Like, what really needs fixed? Like, maybe
Yeah,
improve, maybe add to, maybe.
he's finally gonna do that Kevin Durant for Evan Mobley trade. It's a done
Oh
deal,
man,
Alex.
no, don't even.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see. We'll see what tricks up their sleeve they potentially have. You did bring up a good point. The Donovan Mitchell thing was completely off the radar. Kind of came out of the blue.
It did, yeah.
So just anything is possible, but unfortunately, nothing's gonna happen anytime soon. So go ahead, Cavs fans, go on Reddit, have your vent sessions, do
Please
what you're
don't.
gonna do.
No one
You
wants to
know,
read it.
I won't be reading that stuff. Alex was telling me. Alex was reading some of them before we started
Oh my
recording.
gosh, just
He
scrolling through.
he's
Oh
like
man,
he's
some
like
of the titles.
he's like I'm downvoting all of these. So if
Yeah,
you're on there posting on the Cavs subreddit and you're getting some downvotes, it could be Alex doing that.
if your
So
post has 0 points, it's probably because of me.
right,
I'm
right.
vengeful like that.
Yep.
I see your trash post and I just hit that down arrow
Yes,
hard.
yes. That's good. That's good. Well, Alex, another season in the books. Unfortunately, didn't end how we want. But I mean, that's a wrap, man. Unfortunately, right? I mean, is there anything else from your end? Any final words? Anything else you want to get off your chest?
I don't think so. I don't.
We already went about 40 minutes longer than we said we wanted.
Yeah. I thought this was gonna be a quick episode. Now we're at 45 minutes. I don't. I kind of think we went over it all.
Yeah.
I did have some other notes here, but nah, I'm tired of talking about how bad they played.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly. Everybody understands.
it was an awesome season, a disappointing finish. Same as last season, same as the season before that. But I'd rather have this much success than no success.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this team still has a window of opportunity. This, even if they ran this core back, salary wise, age demographic wise, talent wise, this team still has another 2 to 3 year window, right? Before, like, okay, if you didn't win it by that point, you're probably moving on from Donovan Mitchell. You're probably letting him go. You're blowing it up at that point. So again, we're not in complete rebuild mode. This team will continue to be fun and continue to be a contender here, you know, for the next foreseeable future. So that is something to hang on to over this summer. And Cavs basketball will be back before we know it. All right, let's get out of here, Alex. Cavs
All right.
fans, want to thank you as always for tuning in and listening. And Alex, let them know where they can follow us and connect with us.
Follow us on Twitter at Cavs Pick and Roll. Shoot us an email, cavspickandroll@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr. Watch this episode on YouTube. Whoever you're listening, watching, click like, subscribe, leave us a rating or review. We'd appreciate it.
All right, Cavs fans, there it is. We'll talk to you again soon.
Peace out, Cavs fans.